understand. They were supposed to be here an hour ago. No, please check again. I'm starting to panic.
Maya's fingers traced the raised dots on the invitation card, reading the braille with practiced ease. Her engagement party. Tomorrow night. To a man she had never met, chosen by her uncle, approved by the board of directors of her late father's company. She was 25 years old and completely blind, and everyone in her life treated her like a china doll that might shatter at any moment. Fragile. Helpless. Incapable of making her own decisions. The invitation slipped from her fingers and fell to the marble floor of her bedroom in the Chen family estate. The sound echoed in the silence, sharp and final. Maya Chen was the sole heir to Chen Technologies, a semiconductor empire worth $8 billion. Her father had died 6 months ago in what the police called a tragic accident. His car had gone off a cliff on a rainy night in Northern California. No witnesses. No evidence of foul play. Just a grieving family and a company left in turmoil. But Maya knew better. Her father had been murdered. She could not prove it, but she knew it in her bones the same way she knew the layout of every room in this house, the same way she could navigate the world through sound and touch and instinct. And she knew exactly who was responsible. Her uncle, Richard Chen, her father's younger brother who had spent his entire life in his sibling's shadow. Richard had taken control of the company after her father's death, citing Maya's disability as justification. The board had agreed. After all, how could a blind woman run a multinational corporation? Never mind that Maya had a master's degree in business from Stanford. Never mind that she had been groomed since childhood to take over the family business. Never mind that her blindness had never stopped her from excelling at everything she attempted. To them, she was just a liability wrapped in expensive clothes, a figurehead to parade at charity events while the real work was done by people who could see. Maya's hands clenched into fists. Tomorrow she was supposed to get engaged to Thomas Zhao, the son of another tech family, a merger disguised as a marriage. Thomas was 40 years old, divorced twice, with a reputation for cruelty that people whispered about at board meetings. Her uncle had arranged everything. The wedding was scheduled for 3 months from now. Once she was married, her shares in Chen Technologies would effectively be controlled by Thomas and her uncle. They would have complete power over her father's legacy and over her. She refused to let that happen. Maya stood and walked to her window. She could not see the gardens below, but she could hear the fountain, smell the jasmine blooming in the night air, feel the cool breeze against her skin. She had memorized every detail of this estate through senses that most people took for granted. She had also spent the past 6 months memorizing something else. The secret files her father had kept, dictated to her in audio recordings she had found hidden in his office. Evidence of Richard's embezzlement. Proof of stock manipulation. Documents that could destroy her uncle and reclaim what was rightfully hers. But she needed time. Time to gather allies. Time to build her case. Time to strike when Richard least expected it. And she had a plan. A desperate, reckless, impossible plan that had come to her 3 weeks ago when desperation had finally outweighed fear. Maya picked up her phone and activated the voice command. Call James. The line rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Maya, it is quite late. Is everything all right? James Morrison was her father's former attorney, one of the few people who had not abandoned her after Richard took control. He was 68 years old, British, with a dry sense of humor and a sharp legal mind that had served the Chen family for over 30 years. I need your help, Maya said quietly. And you are not going to like what I am about to ask. There was a pause. Go on. I need you to find me a husband. Tonight. Someone willing to marry me in secret before tomorrow's engagement party. Someone who needs money badly enough to agree to a contract marriage with no questions asked. James was silent for so long that Maya thought the call had dropped. Then he spoke, his voice carefully measured. Maya, I must advise you that this is an extraordinarily risky course of action. I know. But it is the only way. Once I am legally married, my uncle cannot force this engagement. The marriage to Thomas will be void. I will have bought myself time to execute the rest of my plan. And what happens when Richard discovers what you have done? Then I will already be 3 steps ahead of him, Maya said with more confidence than she felt. I have been preparing for this, James. I have everything I need. I just need this one piece to fall into place. James sighed deeply. If I do this, if I help you with this madness, you must promise me that you know what you are doing. I promise. Do you know someone? Another pause. Perhaps. There is a man. He came to me last week seeking legal assistance. He is in significant debt due to medical bills for his younger sister. He is desperate for money, discreet, and frankly has nothing to lose. I had the impression he would do almost anything for the right price. Perfect. Can you contact him tonight? I will try. But Maya, I must know. How much are you offering? $1 million. Half up front, half after 1 year when we divorce. All he has to do is marry me, play the role of devoted husband in public when necessary, and stay out of my way while I dismantle my uncle's empire. That is extraordinarily generous. I need someone who will not betray me, Maya said. Money buys loyalty. At least temporarily. Very well, James said. I will call him. If he agrees, can you meet him in 2 hours at the address I text you? Yes. And James, thank you. For everything. Do not thank me yet. I have a terrible feeling we are all going to regret this. The address James sent was for a 24-hour cafe in downtown San Francisco, far from the watchful eyes of her uncle's security team. Maya's driver, an older man named Chen who had been loyal to her father, agreed to take her without questions. He had always treated her with dignity rather than pity, and she trusted him more than anyone else in the household. Maya sat in the back of the car, her white cane folded beside her, as the city sounds changed around them. She could map their route by audio alone. The quiet of the estate giving way to suburban streets, then the denser traffic of the city, the honking horns and distant sirens, and the rumble of the BART train underground. They arrived at the cafe at 2 a.m. Chan helped her out of the car and guided her to the entrance. I will wait here, he said quietly. If you need anything at all, you call me. I will. Maya squeezed his arm gratefully, then pushed through the door. The cafe smelled like coffee and pastries and the faint tang of cleaning solution. It was nearly empty at this hour. Maya counted 3 other people by their breathing patterns and movements. 2 were together in the back corner, speaking in low voices. The third was alone, seated near the window based on the direction of the air conditioning and traffic sounds. Maya Chen. A male voice, deep and controlled with an edge of wariness. Yes. You must be. Elias. Elias Grant. He stood, and she heard the scrape of his chair against the tile floor. James said you have a proposal. May I sit? Please. Maya lowered herself carefully into the chair across from him. She could sense him watching her, studying her. She was used to that, to people staring at her clouded eyes, at the way she oriented herself through sound and touch rather than sight. Most people found it unsettling. She did not care what most people thought. James told you what I need? She asked. A husband, Elias said bluntly. A contract marriage for 1 year. $1 million, half now, half at the end. No emotional attachment, no complications, just a legal arrangement that benefits us both. That is correct. And you want this to happen tonight? Yes. I have an engagement party tomorrow that I cannot attend if I am already married. Time is critical. Elias was quiet for a moment. Maya wished she could see his face, read his expressions, but she had learned long ago to read people through other cues. The rhythm of their breathing, the micro-movements of their bodies, the tone of their voice. He was tense, suspicious, but also desperate. She could hear it in the slight catch when he mentioned the money, in the way his foot tapped unconsciously against the floor. Why me? He asked finally. You are an heiress. You could marry anyone. Why choose a stranger through your attorney? Because anyone I know would have ulterior motives, Maya said. They would want control of my company or access to my family's connections or a real relationship I cannot give them. You need money for your sister's medical treatment. I need a legal husband to block my uncle's plans. This is a transaction, nothing more. We both get what we need, and in 1 year we walk away. Just like that. Just like that. Elias leaned back in his chair. She heard the leather creak. And what happens when your family discovers what you have done? Let me worry about my family. All you need to do is show up when required, play the role convincingly, and collect your money. Can you do that? There was a long pause. Maya waited, her heart pounding. This entire plan hinged on this moment, on this stranger agreeing to the most insane proposition anyone had ever made. Finally, Elias spoke. I will do it, but I have conditions. Name them. First, I want the full amount in writing, notarized, ironclad. Second, I want protection from your family. If they come after me when this falls apart, I need guarantees that I will not be destroyed. Third, I want to know the real reason you are doing this. Maya tilted her head. The first two are reasonable. The third is personal. Then make it part of the transaction. You are asking me to tie my life to yours for a year. I deserve to know what I am walking into. Fair enough. Maya took a breath. My uncle murdered my father to take control of our company. I cannot prove it yet, but I will. He has arranged for me to marry a man who will help him maintain that control. If I marry that man, I lose everything. My inheritance, my father's legacy, any chance at justice. This marriage to you buys me the time I need to expose him and take back what is mine. Elias was silent for so long that Maya began to worry she had revealed too much. Then he said, Your uncle sounds like someone I would enjoy disappointing. Despite everything, Maya smiled. Then we have a deal? We have a deal. Elias extended his hand, and Maya reached across the table to shake it. His grip was firm and warm. She felt calluses on his palm, the hands of someone who worked with them, someone who knew physical labor. Then let us get married, Mr. Grant. They were married at 4 a.m. by a judge James had roused from bed with promises of double his usual fee. The ceremony took place in the judge's home office, witnessed by James and Chen, and lasted less than 10 minutes. Do you, Maya Chen, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Do you, Elias Grant, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Then by the power vested in me by the state of California, I now pronounce you husband and wife. And just like that, Maya was married to a complete stranger. She signed the marriage certificate in Braille. Elias signed in ink. James filed the paperwork electronically, ensuring it would be registered with the county by morning. Legal, binding, irreversible. Maya sat in the back of the car on the drive home, her new husband beside her in silence. She had done it. She had bought herself time, thrown a wrench in her uncle's plans, taken control of her own fate. So why did she feel like she had just made a terrible mistake? We should discuss living arrangements, Elias said finally, breaking the silence. I assume you do not want me moving into your family estate. God, no. That would be a disaster. I have an apartment in the city that I use occasionally. It is small but private. You can stay there until we figure out how to handle the public announcement of our marriage. When will that be? Tomorrow, at my engagement party. Maya smiled grimly. I am going to walk in with you on my arm and introduce you as my husband. The look on my uncle's face will almost be worth this entire charade. You have a flair for the dramatic. I have been underestimated my entire life, Mr. Grant. Dramatic gestures are all I have left. Elias was quiet for a moment. Then call me Elias. If we are going to be married, even in name only, we should at least use first names. Elias then. And I am Maya. I know. They lapsed back into silence. Maya leaned her head against the cool window, exhaustion finally catching up with her. She had not slept in 36 hours. Her mind was racing with everything that needed to happen next. Preparing for tomorrow's confrontation, securing the evidence against her uncle, managing the inevitable fallout. But beneath the anxiety and the planning, she felt something else. Relief, maybe. Or hope. She was not helpless. She was not a pawn. She had taken action, seized control, changed the game. Whatever happened next, at least it would be on her terms. What Maya did not know, what she could not possibly have known, was that Elias Grant was not desperate for money to save his sister. He did not have a sister. Elias Grant was a contract killer, one of the best in the world. He had been hired 3 weeks ago to eliminate Maya Chen by making it look like an accident, just like her father's death. The man who hired him was Richard Chen. The medical debt story was a cover James Morrison had unwittingly verified through falsified documents that Elias had planted. The desperation was an act. The agreement to this marriage was not about money. It was about access. Elias sat beside his new wife in the back of the car and studied her profile in the dim light. She was beautiful in an understated way. High cheekbones, delicate features, long black hair pulled back in a simple ponytail. Her eyes were clouded by the genetic condition that had stolen her sight since childhood, but somehow that made her face more striking, not less. She was also far more intelligent and capable than his client had suggested. Richard had described his niece as fragile, helpless, easy to manipulate. The woman beside him was none of those things. This complicated matters. Elias had killed 37 people in his 15-year career. Politicians, criminals, business rivals, anyone who could pay his fee. He did not enjoy it, but he did not lose sleep over it either. He had rules. No children. No one who did not, in his assessment, deserve it. Everyone else was fair game. Maya Chen's file had suggested she was collateral damage in a corporate power struggle. Unfortunate but necessary. Richard had paid half the $5 million fee up front, with the rest due upon completion. But now Elias had spent time with her. He had heard the steel in her voice when she talked about her uncle. He had seen the way she navigated the world with quiet competence despite her disability. He had shaken her hand and felt the determination in her grip. She was not collateral damage. She was a fighter. And Elias was beginning to suspect he had been fed a very different story than the truth. He had 2 choices. Complete the contract as planned, eliminate Maya within the next few weeks and collect his payment, or dig deeper and figure out what was really going on. The smart play was to finish the job. Take the money, disappear, move on to the next contract. But Elias had not survived this long by ignoring his instincts. And every instinct he had was screaming that something about this entire situation was wrong. He looked at Maya again. She had fallen asleep against the window, her face peaceful in the dim light. She had married a complete stranger at 4 o'clock in the morning to escape a trap. That took courage most people did not have. Elias made his decision. He would stay close to Maya, play the role of devoted husband, and he would figure out exactly what Richard Chen was hiding before he made his next move. The engagement party was being held at the Chen estate, a sprawling mansion in Pacific Heights with views of the Golden Gate Bridge and the bay beyond. Maya had grown up in this house. She knew every room, every hallway, every hidden corner where she had played as a child. She also knew exactly where her uncle would be when she made her entrance. Maya stood in the master bedroom she had once shared with her father during visits, wearing a red dress that her stylist had assured her was stunning. She could not see herself, but she trusted Chen's taste. The dress was silk, floor-length, with a high neck and long sleeves that covered the scars on her wrists from the car accident that had taken her sight when she was 7 years old. Elias was beside her, wearing a tailored suit James had procured. Maya had no idea what her new husband looked like. She knew he was tall, over 6 feet based on the sound of his footsteps and the way he had to bend slightly when helping her into the car. She knew his voice was deep and measured. She knew his hands were calloused but his touch was surprisingly gentle. Beyond that, he was a mystery. "Are you ready?" Elias asked. "No. But that has never stopped me before." He offered his arm, and she took it, feeling the solid muscle beneath the fabric of his jacket. They walked together toward the grand staircase that led down to the ballroom where 200 guests were already gathered. Maya could hear the party below. Classical music played by a live string quartet. The clink of champagne glasses. The low murmur of conversation among San Francisco's elite. All of them here to celebrate her engagement to Thomas Zhao. She was about to ruin everyone's evening. James met them at the top of the stairs. He looked at Maya for a long moment, then sighed. "You are absolutely certain about this?" "Completely." "Then God help us all." James descended first, clearing a path through the crowd. Maya and Elias followed. The music stopped. The conversations died. Every person in that ballroom turned to stare at the blind heiress descending the staircase on the arm of a complete stranger. Maya felt the weight of their attention, heard the sharp intake of breath, the whispered questions spreading through the crowd like wildfire. She kept her head high and her expression serene. Elias was steady beside her, his arm solid beneath her hand. They reached the bottom of the stairs. James announced them. "Ladies and gentlemen, may I present Maya Chen and her husband, Elias Grant. They were married early this morning." The ballroom erupted into chaos. "Before we continue with this story, I need you to do something for me. I pour my heart into these stories, and it genuinely hurts when people watch without subscribing. Please just take 1 second and subscribe. It's free and it means the world to me. Also, drop a comment telling me your favorite part of the story and tell me where you're watching from as well. Now, let's continue." Richard Chen pushed through the crowd like a man possessed. Maya heard him coming, recognized his footsteps, the angry breathing, the fury barely contained in his movements. "What the hell is this?" he demanded. Maya turned toward his voice. "Hello, Uncle Richard. I am sorry to disappoint you, but there will not be an engagement tonight. I am already married. You cannot be serious. This is insane. Who is this man? What have you done?" "I have taken control of my own life," Maya said calmly. "Something you never expected me to do. This is my husband, Elias Grant. We were legally married this morning. All the paperwork is filed and notarized. I am sure your lawyers will confirm that by tomorrow." Richard's voice dropped to a dangerous whisper. "You have no idea what you have just done." "Oh, I think I do. And I think you are going to regret ever underestimating me." Thomas Zhao appeared beside Richard. The man Maya was supposed to marry. She could smell his cologne, expensive and overpowering. She could hear the anger in his breathing. "This is unacceptable," Thomas said. "We had an agreement, Chen Technologies." "You had an agreement with my uncle," Maya replied. "Not with me. I never agreed to marry you, Thomas. You are 15 years older than me with 2 ex-wives who filed restraining orders against you. Did you really think I would go through with this? You do not have a choice. I always have a choice. And I chose someone else." The crowd around them was silent, hanging on every word. This was the scandal of the year, and everyone knew it. The blind heiress had just destroyed her uncle's carefully laid plans in the most public way possible. Richard grabbed Maya's arm. His grip was hard enough to bruise. "We need to talk. Now. In private." "Take your hand off my wife," Elias said quietly. His voice was low, but there was something in it that made Richard release Maya immediately. Something cold and dangerous that suggested he was not a man to be trifled with. "Who are you?" Richard demanded. "I am Maya's husband. That is all you need to know." "This is not over," Richard hissed. "You have just made the biggest mistake of your life, Maya." "No, Uncle," Maya said. "You made the biggest mistake of yours when you killed my father. I am going to prove it. And when I do, you will lose everything." She turned and walked away, Elias beside her, leaving Richard and Thomas and 200 stunned guests staring after them in shock. They left the party in Maya's car, Chen driving them back to the city apartment she had mentioned the night before. Neither of them spoke during the 20-minute drive. The silence was heavy with unspoken questions and the weight of what they had just done. The apartment was in the financial district, a modest two-bedroom that Maya had purchased with her own money, separate from her family's wealth. She had furnished it herself, learning the layout by touch, creating a space that was entirely hers. Elias helped her inside and then stood awkwardly in the living room while Maya locked the door behind them. "That went well," he said finally. Maya laughed. It was a slightly hysterical sound. "Did it? I just declared war on my uncle in front of half of San Francisco's elite. I would call that an unmitigated disaster. You accomplished what you wanted. He cannot force you to marry Thomas now." "No, but he will come after me harder than ever." She slumped onto the couch, exhaustion finally catching up with her. "I have bought myself time, but I do not know if it will be enough." Elias sat in the chair across from her. "Tell me about your father's death." Maya was silent for a long moment. "Why do you care?" "Because you just made me part of this war, whether I wanted to be or not. If your uncle is as dangerous as you suggest, I need to know what I am up against." "Fair enough." Maya took a breath. "My father died 6 months ago. Car accident on Highway 1. He went off a cliff during a storm. The police ruled it an accident, but I know it was murder." "How?" "Because my father was the most careful driver I have ever known. He never sped, never took risks, especially not in bad weather. He had survived worse storms than that 100 times. She paused. "And because I heard him arguing with Richard the night before he died. They thought I could not hear them through the study door, but I have always had excellent hearing. Richard was demanding that my father step down as CEO, threatening to expose something if he did not comply. My father refused. The next day he was dead." "What was Richard threatening to expose?" "I do not know. That is what I have been trying to figure out. I have been going through my father's private files, listening to audio recordings he left behind. There are hints of something. Illegal dealings, maybe corporate espionage, something that would destroy the company if it came to light. But I have not found the full story yet." Elias was quiet, processing this information. "And your uncle took over as CEO after your father's death?" "Yes. He convinced the board that I was unfit to run the company because of my blindness. He has been embezzling money ever since, hiding it through shell companies and offshore accounts. I have traced some of it, but not enough to bring charges." "Not yet. So, you need time to gather evidence." "Exactly. And you need time to collect your money. This arrangement works for both of us." Elias studied her in the dim light of the apartment. She was remarkable, sitting there with her clouded eyes and her exhausted posture, still radiating determination despite everything she had been through. She was fighting a battle most people would have given up on months ago. And Elias was supposed to kill her. He thought about the contract, about Richard's insistence that Maya was unstable, that she was a threat to herself and others, that eliminating her was a mercy. It had all been lies. Richard wanted his niece dead so he could maintain control of Chen Technologies without challenge. Elias made his second decision. He was not going to complete this contract. He was going to help Maya destroy her uncle instead. "Get some sleep," he said, standing. "We have a lot of work to do tomorrow." "Where are you going?" Elias paused. "To gather information. If we are going to take down your uncle, we need to know everything about him. His habits, his associates, his vulnerabilities. I am good at finding those things." "How good?" "Very good. Trust me." Maya tilted her head, listening to something in his voice that he had not meant to reveal. "Who are you really, Elias Grant?" "I am your husband. That is all that matters right now." He left before she could ask more questions. Over the next 3 weeks, Elias conducted surveillance on Richard Chen with the same precision he used for all his contracts. He tracked his movements, monitored his communications, identified his associates and business partners. He discovered 3 mistresses, 2 illegal gambling debts, and 1 very interesting connection to a Chinese intelligence operative working out of the consulate. Richard was not just embezzling from Chen Technologies. He was selling company secrets to foreign governments. Elias compiled the evidence meticulously. Photos, recordings, financial transactions. Everything Maya would need to destroy her uncle and reclaim her company. But he also kept searching for the truth about his own contract. Who else knew about Richard's plan to kill Maya? Were there other players involved? Most importantly, was Maya still in danger even if Elias did not complete the job? He found his answer in Richard's private office during a break-in at 3 a.m. There was a second contract. Another assassin hired as backup in case Elias failed. The payment was scheduled to go through in 2 weeks, and the method was specified. A car accident, just like her father. Elias stared at the documents, his blood running cold. Richard was not leaving anything to chance. He wanted Maya dead, and he was willing to pay multiple people to ensure it happened. Elias took photos of everything and then carefully erased any trace of his presence. He was back at the apartment by 5 a.m., his mind racing with plans and contingencies. He had to tell Maya. She deserved to know she was still in danger. But telling her meant revealing his own role in this nightmare. It meant admitting he had been hired to kill her, that he had married her under false pretenses, that everything about their arrangement was built on a lie. She would never trust him again. She would probably try to have him arrested. But if he did not tell her, the second assassin would complete the job, and Maya would die anyway. Elias sat in the dark apartment, listening to Maya's soft breathing from the bedroom, and made his third decision. He would tell her everything. And then he would do whatever it took to keep her alive, even if it meant exposing himself, even if it meant losing the only person who had made him feel human in 15 years. Because somewhere in the past 3 weeks, Elias had committed the cardinal sin of his profession. He had fallen in love with his target. Maya woke to the smell of coffee and the sound of someone moving in her kitchen. For a moment, she forgot where she was. Then reality came rushing back. The marriage, the confrontation at the party, Elias. She sat up slowly, orienting herself to the familiar sounds and smells of her apartment. The coffee was brewing in the machine on the counter. Elias was at the stove, cooking something that smelled like eggs and bacon. He was still here. For some reason, that surprised her. Maya had expected him to disappear after the party, to collect his money and leave her to deal with the aftermath alone. Most people in her life had abandoned her when things got difficult. Why would a stranger she paid to marry her be any different? But he was still here, making her breakfast like this was a normal morning in a normal marriage. "Good morning," she said, making her way into the kitchen through memory and sound. Elias turned. "Morning. I made eggs. I hope that is acceptable. You did not have to do that. I know." He paused. "We need to talk." Something in his voice made Maya's stomach tighten. "That sounds ominous. Sit down, please." Maya lowered herself into one of the kitchen chairs. She heard Elias place a plate in front of her, heard him sit across the table, heard him take a deep breath like he was preparing to say something difficult. "I have not been honest with you," he said finally. Maya's heart sank. Of course. She should have known this was too good to be true. "Let me guess. You are working for my uncle. This whole marriage was a setup." "No. Worse than that." Elias was quiet for a moment. "I was hired to kill you, Maya. 3 weeks before we met. Your uncle paid me $5 million to eliminate you and make it look like an accident." The world stopped. Maya sat frozen in her chair, unable to breathe, unable to think. The man she had married, the man she had trusted, the man who had helped her confront her uncle was an assassin hired to kill her. "You are lying," she whispered. "I wish I was." Elias slid something across the table. His phone, based on the smooth glass surface. "These are the contract documents. The payment schedule. Communications with your uncle. All the proof you need." Maya's hands were shaking as she activated the phone's text-to-speech function. The robotic voice read the documents aloud, each word driving a knife deeper into her chest. "Contract for elimination of Maya Chen. Payment, $5 million. Method, staged accident. Timeline, 4 to 6 weeks from contract initiation. Client: Richard Chen. It was all there. Every horrible detail. Why are you telling me this? Maya asked, her voice breaking. Why not just finish the job? Because I am not going to kill you, Elias said. I decided that the night we met. And because there is a second contract. Another assassin hired as backup in case I fail. He is scheduled to strike in 2 weeks. I found the documents in your uncle's office last night. Maya felt like she was drowning. Get out. Maya. Get out of my apartment. Get out of my life. Leave before I call the police and have you arrested for conspiracy to commit murder. Elias stood slowly. Before I go, you need to know something else. I have evidence that will destroy your uncle. Photos, financial records, proof of his dealings with Chinese intelligence. I was going to give it to you. I was going to help you take him down. Why would you do that? Why would you help the person you were hired to kill? Because I made a mistake, Elias said quietly. I took a contract without doing my own research. I believed your uncle's lies about you being unstable and dangerous. I thought I was eliminating a problem. But then I met you. I saw how strong you are, how brilliant, how determined. I realized that Richard was the monster, not you. And I could not go through with it. That does not change what you are. You are a killer. Yes, I am. I have killed 37 people in my career. I will not apologize for what I am, but I will apologize for agreeing to target you. It was wrong. You are the last person in the world who deserves to die. Maya's hands were clenched so tightly her nails drew blood from her palms. Leave the evidence. Take your money and go. I never want to see you again. You are still in danger. The second assassin. Then I will hire security. I will go to the police. I will handle it myself. She stood, her whole body trembling with rage and betrayal. You do not get to be my hero, Elias. You do not get to save me after agreeing to kill me. Just go. Elias was silent for a long moment. Then she heard him move toward the door. The evidence is on my phone. Everything you need to bring down your uncle. Use it. Stay safe. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Maya stood alone in her kitchen, tears streaming down her face, and screamed. The next 2 weeks were a nightmare. Maya threw herself into gathering the evidence Elias had left her, working with James to build an airtight case against her uncle. She barely slept, barely ate, driven by fury and grief and the desperate need to focus on something other than the betrayal that was eating her alive. She had trusted him. She had started to care about him. And all along, he had been an assassin hired to kill her. The worst part was that some small, traitorous part of her believed him when he said he had changed his mind. She believed that he had chosen not to kill her, that he had gathered evidence to help her instead. She believed that his feelings had been real, even if everything else was a lie. But belief did not erase betrayal. It did not make the hurt any less acute. James was the one who finally forced her to confront reality. Maya, he said one evening as they reviewed documents in her apartment. You need to hire security. If what Elias said is true, you are still in danger. I know. I have been looking into private security firms. That is not enough. James hesitated. Maya, I think you should consider that Elias might be your best option for protection. Absolutely not. He knows how these people operate. He has the skills to keep you safe. And despite everything, I believe he was telling the truth about not wanting to complete the contract. He is a murderer, James. Yes, and your uncle hired him specifically because he is the best at what he does. Who better to protect you from another assassin than someone who knows exactly how they think? Maya wanted to argue, but she could not. James was right, and she hated it. The attack came 3 days later. Maya was leaving a client meeting in downtown San Francisco when she heard the screech of tires. Her cane was in one hand, her phone in the other. She had just called for her car when someone grabbed her from behind. The grip was professional, efficient. An arm around her waist, a hand over her mouth, dragging her backward toward what sounded like a running vehicle. Maya fought. She drove her elbow backward into ribs, heard a grunt of pain. She stomped down hard on an instep with the heel of her shoe. The grip loosened for just a second. Then gunshots. 3 of them, close enough that Maya felt the vibration in her chest. The person holding her dropped. Maya hit the ground hard, her cane clattering away from her. Strong hands pulled her up. She knew those hands. Elias, are you hurt? His voice was sharp, urgent. No. What happened? We need to move. Now. He half carried her to a car, shoved her into the passenger seat, and peeled away from the curb before she could even process what had just happened. They drove in silence for several minutes. Maya's heart was pounding so hard she thought it might burst. Her hands were shaking. She could smell gunpowder and her own fear. You killed him, she said finally. Yes. You have been following me. Yes. Why? Because I knew this was going to happen. The second assassin. I have been tracking him for the past week. He made his move today. I stopped him. By killing him. Would you have preferred I let him kidnap you? Elias's voice was cold. Because that was the plan. Take you somewhere isolated, stage a car accident, collect the payment. You would have been dead within the hour. Maya pressed her hands to her face. This cannot be happening. It is happening. And it is going to keep happening until your uncle is stopped. Where are you taking me? Somewhere safe. Somewhere he cannot find you. They ended up at a safe house in Marin County, a small cabin hidden in the redwoods that belonged to one of Elias's contacts. It was isolated, secure, and completely off the grid. Maya sat on the couch while Elias checked the perimeter and secured all the entrances. When he finally came back inside, she heard him lock the door and then sink into the chair across from her. How long have you been following me? She asked. Since the day I left your apartment. 2 weeks. Yes. And you have been protecting me without me knowing. Yes. Maya did not know what to feel. Anger at the invasion of privacy. Relief that he had been there when she needed him. Confusion about what any of this meant. The man you killed today. Who was he? Professional. Russian, based on his accent. Expensive. Your uncle paid him $3 million. And now he is dead. Yes. Do you feel anything about that? About taking a life? Elias was quiet for a long moment. I feel relief that you are alive. That is all. You are a monster. Perhaps. But I am a monster who just saved your life. Maya wanted to argue, but the words died in her throat. He had saved her. There was no denying that. If Elias had not been there, she would be dead right now. What do we do now? She asked quietly. We finish this. We take down your uncle before he hires a third assassin. I have all the evidence we need. We just need to deliver it to the right people. Who? The FBI. Your uncle's dealings with Chinese intelligence make this a federal case. Once they have the evidence, he will be arrested within days. And what about you? Will they arrest you too? Probably. Elias leaned back in his chair. But that is a problem for later. Right now, getting you safe is all that matters. Why? Maya turned her face toward where she heard his voice. Why do you care so much? You could have just disappeared. You could have taken your money and left the country. Why are you still here risking your life for me? Elias was silent for so long that Maya thought he was not going to answer. Then she heard him stand and move closer. He knelt in front of her, close enough that she could feel his warmth. Because somewhere in the past month, I stopped seeing you as a contract, he said quietly. I started seeing you as the most remarkable person I have ever met. You are brilliant and brave and stronger than anyone I have ever known. You have survived things that would have destroyed most people. And you did it with grace and dignity and without losing yourself. He reached out and gently took her hand. I am not a good man, Maya. I have done terrible things. I have killed people for money. I have lived a life that cannot be redeemed. But when I am with you, I want to be better. I want to be someone worthy of you. You are an assassin. I know. And after this is over, you will never have to see me again. But right now, in this moment, I need you to let me protect you. I need you to let me do this one good thing. Maya felt tears sliding down her cheeks. She should push him away. She should maintain her anger, her righteous fury at his betrayal. But she was so tired. Tired of fighting alone. Tired of being strong. Tired of pretending she did not need anyone. I hate that I believe you, she whispered. I know. I hate that I trust you after everything. I know. And I hate that some part of me has feelings for you that I cannot explain. Elias's breath caught. Maya. Do not. She pulled her hand away. Do not make this into something it is not. We are both damaged people in an impossible situation. Whatever we feel is not real. It cannot be real. What if it is? Then it is the cruelest joke the universe has ever played. She stood, putting distance between them. Help me destroy my uncle. Keep me alive long enough to reclaim my father's company. And then disappear from my life. That is all I ask. All right, Elias said quietly. If that is what you want. It is. But Maya knew she was lying. And from the way Elias sighed, she suspected he knew it too. They spent 3 days in the safe house preparing their case. James joined them on the second day, bringing his legal expertise and contacts within the FBI. Together, they compiled everything they needed to take down Richard Chen. Financial records showing embezzlement of over $200 million from Chen Technologies. Communications between Richard and Chinese intelligence operatives. Proof of corporate espionage and the sale of classified semiconductor technology. Records of the contracts taken out on Maya and her father. Everything. James set up a meeting with FBI agent Sarah Rodriguez, who specialized in corporate espionage cases. She agreed to meet them at a secure location in San Francisco. This is it, James said as they prepared to leave the safe house. Once we hand this over, there is no going back. Richard will be arrested. The company will be in chaos. Your life will never be the same. Good, Maya said. It is time my uncle faced consequences for his actions. The meeting was scheduled for 2 p.m. at a federal building downtown. Maya, Elias, and James arrived early and were escorted to a conference room on the 8th floor. Agent Rodriguez was a woman in her late 40s with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She reviewed the evidence for over an hour, asking detailed questions and making notes. This is substantial, she said finally. If everything here checks out, we have enough to bring charges against Richard Chen for espionage, embezzlement, conspiracy to commit murder, and about a dozen other federal crimes. How long until you can arrest him? Maya asked. We will need to verify the evidence and coordinate with other agencies. I would estimate 48 to 72 hours. He could run. We will put him under surveillance immediately. Agent Rodriguez looked at Elias. And what about you, Mr. Grant? According to these documents, you were hired to kill Ms. Chen. I was, Elias said calmly. I did not complete the contract. But you did kill the second assassin. In defense of Maya. He was attempting to kidnap her. Agent Rodriguez studied him for a long moment. You understand that you are confessing to murder. I understand. I am going to need you to come with me for questioning. Elias nodded. He had known this was coming. He turned to Maya. It is going to be all right. You are safe now. Maya felt her throat tighten. Wait. Maya, we had a deal. I protect you until your uncle is arrested. Then I disappear. This is me disappearing. No. Maya stood, her hands clenched at her sides. You do not get to sacrifice yourself. Not after everything. I am not sacrificing anything. I am accepting consequences for my choices. Agent Rodriguez, Maya said, turning toward the FBI agent. Elias Grant saved my life. He provided the evidence you need to arrest my uncle. He cooperated fully with this investigation. That has to count for something. It does. But it does not erase his past actions. Then give him immunity in exchange for his testimony. She took a breath. My uncle hired dozens of people over the years to do his dirty work. Elias can identify them. He can help you dismantle an entire network of contract killers and corporate criminals. Is not that worth making a deal? Agent Rodriguez looked between Maya and Elias. That is not my decision to make. But I will speak to the U.S. Attorney's Office. If Mr. Grant is willing to cooperate fully, we might be able to work something out. I am, Elias said. Then come with me. We have a lot to discuss. Elias was taken into federal custody that afternoon. Maya did not see him for 3 days. During that time, everything changed. The FBI arrested Richard Chen at his home in Pacific Heights. The news coverage was immediate and brutal. Tech billionaire arrested for espionage. Chen Technologies CEO charged with murder conspiracy. The headlines were everywhere. The board of directors held an emergency meeting. With Richard in custody and facing life in prison, they had no choice but to reinstate Maya as the rightful heir to the company. Maya Chen became CEO of Chen Technologies at 25 years old. The press called her a miracle. The blind heiress who had overcome tragedy to reclaim her father's legacy. They did not know the full story. They did not know about the contract marriage or the assassin who had saved her life. They just saw the narrative they wanted to see. Maya stood in her father's old office, now hers, and felt the weight of responsibility settle onto her shoulders. This was what she had fought for. This was her father's legacy, her birthright. So why did it feel so hollow? James found her standing at the window, her fingers trailing along the glass. You did it, he said softly. Your father would be so proud. Would he? Maya turned. I destroyed his brother. I exposed our family's dirty secrets to the world. I married an assassin and fell in love with him in the process. I am not sure Dad would recognize what I have become. You survived. You fought back. You refused to be a victim. That is exactly what he would have wanted. Maya nodded, but she did not feel convinced. There is something else, James said. Elias has been granted limited immunity in exchange for his testimony. He will serve 5 years on reduced charges, but he will not face life in prison. The U.S. attorney agreed that his cooperation was valuable enough to warrant leniency. 5 years. Yes. And after that? After that, he will be free to rebuild his life. James paused. He asked me to give you this. He handed Maya an envelope. Inside was a letter written in Braille. Maya read it slowly, her fingers moving over the raised dots. Maya, by the time you read this, I will be beginning my sentence. I do not expect forgiveness. I do not expect you to wait for me or think of me or consider me part of your future. You have reclaimed your life and your company. You are exactly where you are supposed to be. But I need you to know that meeting you changed me. You showed me that I could be more than what I had become. You gave me a reason to want to be better. I hope you build something extraordinary with Chen Technologies. I hope you help people the way you helped me. I hope you find happiness and love and everything you deserve. Thank you for showing me what it means to be human again. Elias. Maya folded the letter carefully and pressed it to her chest. Tears streamed down her face. What do I do, James? She whispered. What do you want to do? She took a shaky breath. I want to be angry. I want to hate him for what he was. I want to move on and forget he ever existed. But I cannot. She laughed bitterly. I fell in love with an assassin, James. How completely insane is that? James was quiet for a moment. Your father once told me that love does not care about logic. It does not ask permission. It simply exists, and we can either accept it or spend our lives running from it. What did you tell him? I told him that sounded like something a man hopelessly in love would say. He was talking about your mother at the time. She was considered completely unsuitable for him. Wrong background, wrong social class. His family opposed the marriage. But he loved her anyway, and they built a beautiful life together. Maya had never heard that story. Her mother had died when she was 3. She barely remembered her. What are you saying? I am saying that Elias Grant may have started as an assassin, but he ended as the man who saved your life and helped you reclaim your legacy. People are more than their worst choices. Sometimes they deserve a second chance. And if I wait for him? If I give him that second chance and he disappoints me? Then at least you will have tried. James touched her shoulder gently. But if you walk away now, you will spend the rest of your life wondering what might have been. 5 years passed. Maya transformed Chen Technologies into one of the most respected companies in the tech industry. She implemented ethical oversight committees, donated billions to disability advocacy organizations, and became a voice for corporate responsibility. She dated occasionally, but nothing serious. Every man she met fell short of a standard she could not quite define. Or maybe she just knew that her heart belonged to someone else. She visited Elias twice a year at the federal prison where he was serving his sentence. They talked through glass partitions, sharing pieces of their lives. He told her about the classes he was taking, the counseling he was receiving, the work he was doing to become someone different. She told him about the company, about the changes she was making, about the future she was building. They never talked about what would happen when he was released. That felt too dangerous, too presumptuous. But Maya counted the days anyway. Elias was released on a cold morning in November. He stepped out of the prison gates carrying a small bag of belongings and wearing civilian clothes for the first time in 5 years. A black car was waiting at the curb. Maya stood beside it, wearing a camel coat and a nervous smile. Elias stopped walking. He stared at her like he could not believe she was real. "Hello, stranger," Maya said softly. "Maya." His voice broke on her name. "What are you doing here?" "Well, I thought you might need a ride. You should not have come. You should have moved on. You should have." She walked toward him, her white cane tapping against the pavement. When she reached him, she lifted her hand to his face. He was thinner than she remembered. His jaw was covered in stubble. But his eyes, she imagined, still held that same intensity. "Should have," she agreed. "But I never was very good at doing what I should. I am not the same person I was. Good. Neither am I. Maya, I do not deserve." "Stop." She pressed her finger to his lips. "I have spent 5 years running one of the most successful tech companies in the world. I have negotiated billion-dollar deals and faced down corporate raiders and stood up to some of the most powerful people in America. Do you really think I would be standing here if I did not know exactly what I was doing?" Elias laughed, a broken, disbelieving sound. "No, I suppose not." "I love you," Maya said. "I have loved you since the moment you knelt in front of me in that safe house and told me you wanted to be better. I have loved you through 5 years of waiting and wondering and trying to convince myself to move on. And I am done running from it." She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a small box. Inside were 2 rings, simple platinum bands. "5 years ago, we got married for all the wrong reasons," she said. "I want to do it again. For all the right ones this time." Elias stared at the rings. Then at her. "Maya, are you asking me to marry me?" she said. "For real this time. Not as a business arrangement. Not as protection. As partners. As equals. As 2 broken people who somehow found each other in the darkness and decided to build something beautiful together. I am an ex-convict. I am aware. I have done terrible things. I know. And you have spent 5 years paying for them. You have done the work to change. You have become someone different." She paused. "I am not asking you to be perfect, Elias. I am asking you to be mine." Elias was crying now, tears streaming down his face. "Yes," he said. "Yes. 1,000 times yes." Maya slipped the ring onto his finger. He took the other ring and slid it onto hers, his hands shaking. Then he pulled her close and kissed her like she was the only thing in the world that mattered. They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge. James officiated. Chen drove them to the venue. A handful of close friends attended. It was nothing like the first wedding at 4 a.m. in a judge's home office. This time there were flowers and music and joy. This time they both meant every word of their vows. Do you, Maya Chen, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? I do. Do you, Elias Grant, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife? I do. Now and always. Then by the power vested in me, I now pronounce you husband and wife. Again. Everyone laughed. Elias kissed his wife, and Maya felt like her heart might burst from happiness. They had both been broken. They had both been lost. They had found each other in the most impossible circumstances, and somehow they had built something real. Later that night, they stood on the balcony of their apartment, overlooking the city lights of San Francisco. Do you ever regret it? Elias asked, his arms wrapped around her. Taking a chance on me? Maya leaned back against his chest. Never. Not for a single moment. Even though I was hired to kill you, especially because you chose not to. She turned in his arms to face him. You could have been a murderer. Instead, you became my hero. That is the man I fell in love with. The man who chose to be better. Elias kissed her forehead. I will spend the rest of my life trying to deserve you. You already do. They stood together in the darkness, two souls who had found each other against impossible odds. The blind heiress and the reformed assassin. It sounded like something out of a movie, but it was their truth. Maya had moved into a new apartment to escape her family's control. She had expected to find freedom, maybe justice if she was lucky. She had found her forever instead. And as the city lights twinkled below them like fallen stars, Maya knew that sometimes the most beautiful love stories began in the darkest places. Sometimes the people who seemed most dangerous were the ones who saved you. Sometimes the most broken hearts were the ones that healed together. She had been saved by the man who was supposed to kill her. And in saving her, he had saved himself. That was a story worth living. Thank you for watching to the end. Please remember to click the subscribe button and make sure you like this video and tell me in the comments where you're watching from. If you enjoyed this story, let me know your favorite moment in the comments below. Subscribe for more stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.